Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. To lower these a little bit. Let me start with thanking everyone here for taking the time to join us this morning. I'd like to especially recognize Undersecretary Dr. Demir and General Tükenci. We also have Deputy Undersecretary Hüsnü Dilemre with us. But there are many distinguished guests. I see a lot of familiar faces here. The first time that I participated in the ATC TAIC annual conference was in 2003. I'm sure most of you will remember that was in the heat of the Iraq War. And Turkish Parliament had just denied American troop deployment. Many were worried back then that the relationship was no longer as relevant as it was during the Cold War. And some even speculated that it was irreparably damaged. Of course, 6 years later, President Obama, during his visit in Turkey, renamed the relationship as a model partnership. And again today, we see that this conference is occurring at a time that the world is going through serious turmoil, maybe one of its most critical periods in modern history. And both Turkey and the United States have front row seats. Again, there's speculation that this might render our relationship irrelevant. I believe it couldn't be more relevant than today. The next US president, who will be elected next week, will inherit a very weak global economy, with increasingly less tools available with which to stimulate growth, much needed growth. Our mutual friends from the European Union seem less and less united with each passing month. And while our neighbors Ukraine and Russia are engaged in hostilities just across the Black Sea, other neighbors, especially Syria and Iraq, are engaged in violent conflicts. The resultant refugee crisis, as General Jones mentioned, is having an enormous impact on Turkey, which has borne costs exceeding $13 billion in connection with the nearly 3 million displaced, unfortunate individuals who have arrived in Turkey. Against this backdrop, again, it should be clear that the Turkish-American relationship is as relevant as it ever was. Turkey has a vested interest in almost all United States foreign policy priorities. And similarly, the United States is affected by most of Turkey's actions in the region. Despite occasional disagreements, I believe that our fundamental objectives, strategic objectives, are aligned. I also believe that both Turkish and American leadership is urgently needed to chart the path towards peace and prosperity in Europe and the Middle East. Now, this conference focuses on the prosperity part of this equation. Over these 2 days, we will seek ways to harness the combined entrepreneurial spirit and technological ingenuity of our economies. The main actors in our economies are, of course, entrepreneurs. As I mentioned yesterday at the exhibition, a nation needs entrepreneurs who are engaged beyond their core economic activities. Without these entrepreneurs who are willing to endorse art and other areas, it is very difficult for us to reach our objectives. We have an impressive list of entrepreneurs represented here with us today, but I want to mention especially Sierra Nevada Corporation. They are a very important sponsor, but they're very dear friends of ours, and they are a role model, most importantly, of what people can achieve. I, for one, believe that the American dream and the Turkish dream is very much alive, and it's embodied in person, personalized by you. Actually, I have to mention your wife as well, because I learned yesterday that she owns 1% more shares than you. So I want to be on the good side of Anonymous as well. We'll still invite you next year, though. Don't worry. We also have representatives and participants from the Turkish and US governments, from prominent trade and commercial associations, and of course, corporate leaders of our two business communities. And befitting of the breadth of the Turkish-American relationship, our program addresses a diverse spectrum of industries and topics. We will address geopolitical issues of common interest, including defense and security. You will notice the uniforms in the room. We will discuss, I did my military service already, don't worry. We will discuss the prospects for renewable and non-renewable energy sector growth in Turkey and what the implications will be for economic growth and connectivity with Europe. We will also examine the evolving technology landscape and how it impacts industries, from financial services to agriculture, and for example, how to protect ourselves against cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We will also investigate ways to enhance cross-border foreign direct investment in both our countries, as well as opportunities in infrastructure. Perhaps most importantly, we will connect with each other. By fostering greater personal and commercial ties, we bring our countries closer, together on the path to future prosperity. In closing, I would like to extend my gratitude to our counterpart, the American-Turkish Council. We have a very productive relationship with them. I wanted to joke that we are the difference what a year makes as TAIC, but it's an inappropriate joke. I read somewhere that you have to be humble when you give a welcome speech, so I won't do that. But I just want to say that it's been a very productive cooperation this year, and I think you notice it from how full this room is. And I hope the next 2 days will be the same. I also want to thank our board members, especially the ATC Committee Chairman, Sedat Birol. I want to thank Chairman Vardan from the Foreign Economic Relations Board and the DAIC staff, and of course all our hard-working staff at ATC and TAIC sites for all they've done in facilitating this year's conference, and I can tell you they've worked very, very hard. Of course, we couldn't make it happen without our sponsors either. Lastly, I wish you an enjoyable and productive conference. Let us reinforce our country's strong alliance and friendship by expanding and achieving our shared economic vision. Thank you very much. I'm not leaving yet because I'm introducing my chairman, Cihat Vardan. He started his career as after graduating with a master's degree from the manufacturing engineering at Ohio State University. One of his first responsible areas was, I'm not an engineer, so I have difficulty reading this, but Stringer Missiles at Kale Group. He continued to work as the general manager of his family business, Çukurova Heating Systems. And after that, he's chaired many non-profit private sector organizations, such as the Economic Development Foundation, İKV, Independent Industrials and Businessmen's Association, MÜSİAD, and many others. He's also a board member of the Turkey-United States Business Council, or the US, which has a counterpart as the US-Turkey Business Council, EFSEC, as you know, and many other organizations. As the chairman of the Economic Development Foundation between 2014 and 15, President Vardan also worked a lot on Turkey-EU relations and oversaw and led several publications, reports, and journals as well. Chairman Vardan, let me invite you to the floor.